Howdy everyone out there in Twitch land. Welcome back to HexHunter. Today we're doing an episode of our fantastic General's Tent, and I have my great buddy here, Function. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So, it's been, oh my goodness, it's been some fun times going on in Hex right now. We are getting a fresh infusion of blood, and everyone's getting more active on the forums, and there's stuff going on. Corey did his own post, there's stuff to read, and there's stuff that went on last weekend, and there's stuff that's going to be going on more, and there's just cool stuff.
Yeah, actually, there's been a lot of people, either coming back who were kind of laying low at least, or there's just been a lot more people in general coming into the forums and stuff, so it's nice been having some more traffic and liveliness there. There's been a bit of trolling and stuff.
Yeah, a little bit.
But, that's to be expected, and most people aren't getting baited too hard, although a few folks are. But yeah.
So tell me, my friend, what have you been up to the most since the last time we did General's Tent?
What with Hex at least?
Yeah.
What have I been up to? I've mostly been doing like kind of goofy drafts. I think maybe set one finally has run its course a little bit for me. We haven't been playing with it for almost a year now and drafting it for like 8 months or so that's pretty reasonable. But now, so I did start firing up some more drafts again though last week. I had been taking a little break, and mostly what I was trying to do is just build wacky, kind of jank, stupid decks, and it was fun. I built my, Chimes of the Zodiac deck, hoping that I could get a couple of Orgoils and just keep looping whatever cards I casted, which didn't end up happening. I didn't get any Orgoils, and I only got to actually play the Chimes once, but when I did, it was pretty bonkers, and that was a lot of fun. So I've been taking maybe a step back from doing the ultra competitive, I always got to win draft mode, and just kind of having fun with it a little bit.
And the funny part on drafts is I've been trying to start making my mental switch from my rare drafting style, because I've hit that margin finally. It took forever. It took 8 months for me to really solidly hit the margin in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my god, being half good is not going to cut it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's because essentially what it ends up being is that once you get below, or actually the best way to say it is, I'm aligning myself with what new players may be feeling as soon as they start looking at Hex again.
Yeah, actually that's a good way of looking at it, is if you're just starting to transition from the filling out your collection mode to the, hey, let's see if we can start winning some packs mode.
Well, because the biggest thing is that if you're not wanting to dump a lot of money into the game, your best bet in general is going to be trying to win any drafts that you enter in, because you're going to need those packs to start fueling your future endeavors. It's got to be there. You've got to do it, because otherwise you can't do it on a 50-50 record unless you have packs to draw on. So if you drop like $100 in the game, then yeah, and you buy, you go get a ton of packs on the auction house, and you leave yourself some platinum left to draft with. That's a very different state than starting fresh off. You only got like $5 or $10 worth of platinum to your account name at that point. Just a really different state of being.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be different for the folks who are starting an open beta, where they're not starting with 500 packs just sitting in their collection and not knowing what to do with them. So,
well, because I'll tell you what, I have really enjoyed, because I came in at the champion tier on the Kickstarter, and I think I have gotten well worth my champion tier's worth of power out of it. To be honest, I've done really well. I've had a lot of drafts. I think I've completed over 100 drafts myself.
Nice.
Just on the cards and stuff that came in. I've probably only put on maybe another, I would conservatively say probably another $100 into the game. So for $185 for a CCG, the price of a box and a half roughly.
Yeah.
100 drafts is really nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of drafts. I mean, especially when you said how much money were you saying?
If you count, I've put in about 100 outside of my
The tier,
Kickstarter
so,
tier, and then I did the champion tier, so that was like an $85 tier if I
So, I
remember
mean,
correctly.
granted, Hex, everything's cheaper than most other TCGs to start with, but if you're paying retail on Hex for those drafts, that's $700 worth of drafting.
Yeah,
That's
that's some
insane.
that's called value, and
Yeah.
it is oh hey Ashwan, it is
Got hacky in here. This duck emoticon, that's kind of funny. I like that.
and so there, the Kickstarter side of it, you know, the in between time when they decided to do it, a lot of great fun value there, and I don't regret any bit of it. I still wish I could have Kickstarted more at the time that I had done it. I'd still probably be out of packs at this point, because at some point when you get to the point of, wow, I keep missing that trigger, the point where I'm at on my collection, part of me just wants to start churning through packs because I don't want to pay auction house prices. Which is terrible of me, considering I have enough information that I could probably actually do all right with the auction house data. That's just me being terrible.
Ben the Green Knight is in here. That's not Ben Stoll, is it? It's just maybe it's just somebody else. Must resist urge to talk about card. No, never resist urge to talk about card.
No.
Always card must be talked about. Yeah. Should have just content daily. Yeah. But
it's just one of those where, like, I'm suddenly very interested in Ben. I'm like, is this Ben Stoll? Is Ben Stoll wanting to maybe drop something into the chat? I will enable links for Ben to make sure that he can do stuff.
Yeah. Always gotta talk about cards. But speaking about cards and talking about stuff, that's kind of what we've been up to lately. We were kind of just touching on it just now, but one of the topics we had on our show notes at least was we were going to talk about intro for new players. And what I've seen a lot of people trying to, like a lot of the other content creators and stuff, is making videos or deck lists or articles about, hey, if you're just getting started, this is an easy one to start with, and this is, this is a deck of all commons, or the rares are 30 cents and you can build a pretty decent deck with that. And I've seen posts on Reddit. But what there hasn't been a whole lot of is talking about if you were just getting started in the game, like how to get started. Like if you have $10, what you should spend that on, how to get the most bang for your buck. And I mean, some of it kind of comes down to what you want, but there's probably a most efficient way to do that. You could probably figure that out, couldn't you, Mokog?
Well, and that's actually one of the things, one of my buddies kickstarted the game with me. I talked him into kickstarting, and he is a software engineer by trade and a gamer through and through anytime he's not actually on the clock. And one of the big challenges that he and I go back and forth about is, at what stage is Hex really ready for what it's doing? And what's its new player experience? What is this as a Kickstarter game? You promised me PvE, where is it? And I'm arguing, I'm taking Hex's side as the devil advocate to his argument, but he makes a lot of valid points on, what is this new player experience going to be? What is the power that you're going to be expecting? Those types of really, in-depth, critical stuff. A lot of the stuff that also comes up on the forums, I am arguing with him dang near daily about especially when we converse about Hex, and he makes a lot of valid points in that it's really hard as a new player if you don't know what's going on. So, the only solution that you can bring forth with Hex as it presently exists, not a sky, pie in the sky sort of solution, but practically what's going on is, the people who are avid fans, who are trying to build communities, who are, hitching their wagons to this intellectual property, they have to step up, which means us, we're in this too. We have to step up and go, we want our new player experience to be like this because we care. Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the big things they have going for them there is, like, the game has a great community. And I think a lot of, because, like, it is a trading card game, and it's more complex than games like Hearthstone. Like, it's a traditional trading card game, so it's kind of got it's a little bit more targeted at the core audience, or the core gamer, if you want to call it that. So it's got a little bit more going on, and for somebody who's not familiar with that type of game, it's no matter like how good of a tutorial you have or anything, it's always going to be a little bit tricky for them.
Yep.
So having just the community mentor them through it and kind of guide folks and be really welcoming is going to go a really long way. I think folks got to keep that in mind. With as new people come in and they're kind of asking the same question over and over, is that might be somebody who ends up sticking around for 5 years in the community.
Yep.
That new person, and if you're a jerk to them, they're not going to want to stick around. But if you're awesome to them, they will. And who knows, you might end up making a few new friends and just making the game that much better for everybody.
And so, and that I make those points, and my buddy, he is steadfast against it because he looks at it from a very, I was promised this one, I was promised my PvE, but they have enabled monetization and they're bringing out Set 2 before all the Kickstarter promises are done. And I'm like, there are reasons for this. Hey, here's the forum where they explain everything. Why don't we read the posts instead of making some snap judgments, BT dub? And, but what it eventually boiled down to, I'm like, you know what? Fine. We're entering a new phase, man. Why don't we do something fun? And he's like, all right, I've got an idea for you. Why don't you try doing everything that you're suggesting to everyone else, practice what you preach, and do it on a new account with no Kickstarter stuff? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you did not just go there. And he's like, yeah, I did. And I'm like, well, fine. And I'm like, I'm going to put it on Twitter so people can track when this thing started.
There's a lot to do with a goal or a mission like that, and I've been kind of thinking about it myself. It would be fun to just track, I guess you would call it, every single transaction you make. So if you buy something off the auction house, keep track of where you are with your gold or your platinum and stuff, and you can actually see how well you're doing as this newbie version of yourself. And whether or not you're actually breaking even, or if you're spending way more from your wallet than you thought you were, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, because the thought is a lot of the players that we have in the game are actually really smart, intelligent people. They do their research. They want to know that they're going to put their money in something that they're going to get enjoyment for a while. The MMO side sounds fantastic to them. The PvP looks really engaging. But, we're still dealing with, some of them are 12, some of them are 18, some of them are 30.
Yeah.
This wide range means that you have a lot of different income states that are going to be there. Someone who's at our step in life can drop, $20-30 a month for, what they want to do and how they want to play. But someone who's like 15, just in high school, they're playing on the weekends, $12-15 may be a really high portion of their discretionary income. And even then, that's if their parents even let them go onto the site to put in platinum to start with.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about a game like this is it's kind of expensive as you want it to be. If you want it to be something that you're almost to the point you're investing into it and hoping to sell the cards you end up buying again so that you can continue buying cards later down the line, or whatever you're trying to do. Or it could just be, like you're saying with your little challenge, it could be $10 in and see how far that $10 gets you, kind of thing. It doesn't have to be crazy expensive, or it could be something where it becomes your number one hobby. That's all up to you.
And and it has to be able to take on those different tiers. And let's be honest with ourselves, just kind of as a community in general. Most of us tend to not be really young on the spectrum. We tend to be, I would say, 21 and older for the most part. From what I've seen, we've got a few young ones. Which, being young isn't bad, because there are 12-year-old card-playing geniuses who have whipped my tail in tournaments, and I've been like, damn.
Yeah.
So, but, the youth side of it is really just not a measure of skill or ability or even maturity. It's really a measure of resources at that point.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of looking at it.
And if you look at it from a measure of resources, you need to know what's going on. You need to know where to connect, who to look at, who to talk to, who to follow to start off with, to get your feet wet, and so that you can form those early opinions. And we've got some starter material in the community, but most of our material that we've got right now is intermediate to advanced. Yeah. And I've tried doing a little bit of early stuff on about 6 months ago and earlier on the channel, but a lot of that was just really premature because we weren't at the step where we were going to be getting the players in necessary to really be interested in this stuff, because a lot of them caught on really quick and like, oh, I have the ability to jump in as a slacker backer, woohoo, I'm going to be playing now. And
so before we move on to our next topic, we kind of talked about this a little bit before the show, and we were saying, and I was even mentioning it a little bit earlier, is there's a lot of stuff of like how to play stuff if you're a new player, but there's not a whole lot of how to get into the game. If you were for your like very first step in this challenge that you're doing, or to just a new player in general, if they're looking to just drop $10 on it, because we're gonna have open beta pretty soon.
Yes, we are.
And I mean, there might be some more features that are launched alongside open beta. We don't really know too much about that, but these players aren't going to be entering the game with 50 some odd packs like everybody was beforehand. They're just going to be entering with just the starter deck. So if they had $10 worth of platinum, how would you recommend that they spend that $10?
If you are a brand spanking new player, the first thing you want to do is you want to load your account with you want to load the platinum onto your account, and then you want to go do like what I'm showing off here and go into the tutorial. If you are new to TCGs, you haven't played any other comparable TCGs that are out there on the market, first go through the tutorial, learn some of the different stuff about Hex, learn how these aspects are going on, and you first go through the tutorial. After you're done with your tutorial, go through and do your starter trial for your starting deck that you decide to go with, because you get a pretty good wealth of cards just from that. I mean, you get a starter deck with things to begin customizing so that you can start familiarizing yourself with the interface,
and
which
working on different
is really
deck
big
building aspects. Yeah,
I mean, you can't underestimate the effectively getting about, I think it's essentially 2 packs worth of upgrade to your starter. Because you get, for every game, you're getting 2 to 4 cards, I believe.
I haven't actually played all the way through that. Does it give you rares at any point?
It gives you rares at the end.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Nice.
So,
So then, once you played through that, what would you do with the $10 worth of platinum? I mean, I think there's a couple different aspects. Is it somebody who's just interested in building out their collection, or are they interested in drafting, or are they interested in like playing really competitively? I think those are probably like the 3 main ones. If they're looking to build a competitive, like constructed deck, if they're looking to just expand their collection, or if they're looking to draft. And there might be overlap.
A lot of it for a brand new player is overlap, and that's the crazy good part about it. And it starts separating out from there. So if you're looking for minimal initial investment to try things out, you've gone through all the starter stuff that you can. You've gotten everything for as economically as you possibly can. Your next best option is to start preparing yourself for draft. And I say you have to prepare yourself because you don't want to be dumb with your limited resources. And so you want to go watch some streams, see what's going on there. You want to go watch, you can watch my stream, which is intermittent, I'll be honest, terribly intermittent. But we have Alucard is a fantastic, Infamous Neo is amazing.
Hacky in here.
Hacky is fantastic. Everyone that's associated with HexCCG Pro is amazing as well. They give you a lot of advanced knowledge about what's going on. I think my I got really 3 favorites right now. Hacky is hilarious. He entertains the snot out of me. His times are off from my time, so I can't always be in Hacky's channel. But Neo gives me some of the most interesting and fun drafts I've seen when I'm on Twitch. And I've really enjoyed being an Alucard stream, because Alucard will walk you through as he does his plays, and that's fantastic for a new player.
Yeah, I think I got matched up against Alucard the other night, I think that was when I was playing my Chimes of the Zodiac deck. I actually made it into the finals of the draft, but then because it was just a janky deck, it ended up falling apart. I think I didn't get the cards I needed or something. Actually, yeah, I think I got resource screwed both games. They were still kind of close, and it faltered at the beginning of the game, and he had enough momentum that I couldn't catch back up. And I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, but they had Menacing Bulk, in their deck, and I played the Shadow Grove Witch, I think it's the name of it, on turn 4 and turned into a 0/0, which is still kind of awkward because the Grolk is still pretty strong at that point. It still exhausts all of my troops, and so they still got a pretty good amount of value out of that.
And so, and once you familiarize yourself with what the draft experience is like, doing it for free from the streamers, even reaching out to like the YouTube channels that are out there that show some example drafts.
Yeah.
Once you catch up on that, you can then start drafting to start building your competitive experience and your deck repertoire. And you really need to focus on learning to competitive draft and not rare draft in this case.
Yeah.
The big difference between those two, and I know you know it, and since I'm terribly famous for rare drafting at this point, I might as well say rare drafting is only good when you've got packs to back yourself up, when you can do bad drafts.
Yeah, because I mean, most of the rares aren't going to be worth the cost of the pack, so you might as well just try to get some more packs so you can keep free rolling your draft. Yep. The other thing is, like, normally, and actually this is a pretty big point, is for most people, I would not recommend that for them to play Swiss. A lot of people will say, like, beginners should play Swiss, but if you're trying to get better at the game, like, Swiss does have, there are some types of people I would say they should always play Swiss, or if you're just looking to, spend, or you're looking to draft and get as much play time out of it as possible, Swiss is great for you. If you're trying to specifically get better at the game, Swiss probably isn't really the best bet. Even if you're new, you might have a better chance of, over the course of time, seeing better results if you're doing the more competitive drafts. And that's just mainly because in Swiss, sometimes you see some really weird stuff happen, like cards that you'll end up getting past a total of 10 Briar Legions or something really dumb like that. And if you ended up winning with that deck, it's not really because you were good, it's just because it was a weird Swiss draft, and that does happen. Like, just all I can say is weird stuff happens in Swiss sometimes.
Competitive
just
draft
the nature
will,
of it.
Competitive draft most definitely teaches you the best ways to draft, because you get a much more accurate flow of the game. But now I want to play devil's advocate on that. So one of the things that you do get by at least your first draft being a Swiss draft is that you have a chance, after you've learned and researched a little bit, to practice good drafting technique, even if people are passing you crazy. I mean, because think, every time someone does a bad pass to you, so they pass you something amazing, that is a much better chance for you to learn to do the right first pick with what you've got, even if it's weird. Does that make sense? So you get an immediate reward for doing good first picks. And that's one of the nice parts of the Swiss draft. Plus, it allows you to get an understanding of what the timing of a draft can go on its long side. Which can't be underestimated.
That's really important.
Yeah, I mean, because you need to understand, you need to block anywhere from 2 to 3 hours sometimes to make sure your draft is complete.
The other thing with Swiss is a lot of new players, like, I wouldn't be surprised if your average completely new player to TCGs and to Hex in general times out very frequently in drafts, just because they're kind of having some analysis paralysis, or they're kind of working their way through the client. And that doesn't really say anything about the game. It just says the genre as a whole, when new players are entering it, they tend to have a lot of analysis paralysis. And so if they're doing Swiss, they're going to get over that quicker because they're playing more games per tournament. And so I would definitely say, maybe I should redact what I was saying, is kind of what Hacky was saying here in chat is almost exactly what I meant, was that for the brand new player, they should probably do Swiss the first 3 or 4 times they draft. They just shouldn't get stuck in a mental attitude where they think that they're not good enough to play the competitive one, and so they only ever play Swiss. That's not really true.
Trust me, as many new players play competitive as hardcore drafters do. And that's going to happen. Don't underestimate your newness to any event or any particular game as an inability to execute on something. So after you believe you gain your amount of familiarity that you need on whatever personal level that you need, Because some are going to be like, oh, I get this after one Swiss draft, and then they can go play competitive all day long after that. But then others might need 3, others might need 4, just so that they feel comfortable. Maybe they're following in and they decided they talk Alucard into doing a Swiss draft with them so that they can figure stuff out.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that you can decide that you want to play. Sorry to kind of stumble over there. I was running out of words there for a moment. But once you figure out how much, what types of drafts and the like that you need, a Swiss draft and a competitor draft still costs the same though.
Yeah.
So you end up, you get different amounts of what people love to call effort value. But yeah.
Going back on that for a second, or just on drafts in general, so I would also say for people to who are brand new to it, to not be afraid to experiment with stuff. Like, you might see me say Boulder Brute's the best card, and or whatever else anybody says is the best card in draft for commons and uncommons. Is that new players should find out what's the best for them, and not necessarily try to always draft the same archetype or favor the same colors. Don't be afraid. I guess what I'm really getting at is don't be afraid to lose. Just try stuff out. The average player in a TCG, if they've never drafted in their entire life and they draft, they're probably going to lose. Nothing to feel bad about. It's just the way it is. Drafting is one of the more skill-intensive aspects of most TCGs, so it's no surprise that they might lose. It's also one of the most fun ways. And you can learn really fast. It's one of the best ways to learn the game. So,
plus,
just
in the
dive
end,
in.
you still get 5k gold.
Yeah, there you go. But what were we saying? Hacky was saying something in chat about it would be nice if there was a way to kind of coach players through draft. And I've had a couple people approach me, like send me messages of, hey, could I coach them in drafting? And I've said, like, yeah, just send me your info and we'll get together on Skype and you can just screen share with me and I'll, critique your picks or ask you questions on, like, why'd you pick this over that, or should you consider this and that. But nobody ever got back to me. But I'm still happy to do that. If there's people out there who could feel like they use a little coaching or something, message me on Twitch or on Twitter or on the forums, and we can try to work something out. And it's not like you have to pay me or anything. I learn from that just as much as anybody else will. So, yeah. Anyhow, why don't we move on to our next one? We were talking about getting started. You did some videos recently, or you did another Hexonomics video.
Well, finally. We did a couple videos.
So tell us a little bit more about the recent Hexonomics.
So, as a quick up to speed for those who are not familiar on it yet, with the concept of it yet. So, one of the big things about TCGs, of course, is making sure that you get your value, because you never know. One of the biggest things that you don't always know is you don't know. It gets really convoluted in my brain really quickly, because it can. What's the best way to say it? Sometimes talking about the values and the costs can get really dry when you get down to the nitty gritty and the deep part of it. But there's also a really interesting side of it in that you kind of get the min-maxing aspect of it that comes along with it. And the long and the short of it is that Hexonomics itself is about getting the most value from everything that you put in to your Hex experience. Everything from how do you maximize your platinum, to what do you want to do with your gold, how do you want to build your collection, how do you want to build yourself towards being able to make the kinds of decks that you want to make, and then when we get our PvE, how do you want to gear your PvP purchases and your PvE experience towards having the best state of play for the current environment and the environments going forward. So that's a whole bunch of stuff, which you can imagine why I brain paralyzed periodically on that. But one of the things that we covered most recently was a little bit of the fundamentals on the PvP and Platinum environment that we're in right now. And then we delved into a lot more of the technical side of really looking at the charts and the graphs and the numbers that have come out from the auction house, which I have to say Hex did a really interesting and a really awesome thing in my opinion.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they did that, but I'm glad they did. And I'm glad there's people like you to crunch the numbers for everybody and kind of put these, help people consume the data. Yeah.
So one of the things, and so once they released this data, it was to not overly nerd out on formats. Basically, it was they did a tab delimited format, just raw data. It had like a couple fields, and I'm like, okay, well this has usable stuff in it, but it's 10,000 lines long. What on earth? Someone who just threw this thing into Excel is not going to get a huge amount of use out of it. So I crunched it. I summed things. I found maxes. I got minimums. We got averages running through, and we pulled together. Yeah. So we pulled those together, and I created a dynamic chart that allows you to graph the effects of that information over the life of the data. And what that really allows you to do is, take a look and see, what were buying opportunities at the time, what were selling opportunities, what was the value of the card, did certain things impact the value of different, was there an effect on ranges, really market type oriented things, because there's a lot of synergy between the auction house and what goes on with markets and market analysis. And so I just brought those suckers together, and well, it's really, really good for historical data right now.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned the outliers in there too, because there's definitely a lot of outliers where you can tell either somebody's trying to give a card to their friend by putting it up for like 1 gold or something when it should be a bajillion gold or whatever it is.
Yes.
And or times where there's somebody buying commons for $20. It's just because they're trying to transfer platinum between accounts and whatnot.
And so what it tells you is that technically, if you're smart, you can use the auction house as it presently exists to transfer cards between individuals and accounts, and there's ways to do it, and there's ways to do it semi-securely if you have the assets between both accounts to do so. But you don't want trading to be something that only those who have sunk either a ton of time to get gold or who put in a lot of platinum to really take advantage of. But you can do it. That part of the data proves it, at least. Especially when all of a sudden you're dropping, or my favorite, trading cards and having it hopefully not sniped for doing an Angel of Dawn for like 32 platinum.
Yeah, Neo and I were trading some cards back and forth, and I know Colin was trading some cards with either Neo or Guerre, and they were very concerned whether or not somebody had sniped them. So
yeah, so it messes with data. So, and that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure for this present set of data is that you want to take a look at holistically, because by the time I released it, it was already 20 days old. Everything was settled and done. The market was in a different position at that point. So you want to leave in those variabilities so that you can dive back in and go, oh, something happened this day. Oh, something happened this day.
Yeah.
When we start, hopefully, I have to cross my fingers on this, getting current data, and I can do this process in, it'd probably take me half an hour to do a large scale set of data again.
Mm-hmm.
But once it's there, you can do a lot more fun stuff for current day things.
So we didn't have it on our notes, but it is kind of related to the Hexonomics and stuff anyhow. Mm-hmm. Is one of the recent announcements was that they were going to be canceling VIP, and I would imagine that there's that's causing some weird stuff to probably happen this week with Platinum. Maybe people are trying to empty their collection so they can buy a year of VIP with Platinum. So they're probably trying to sell off a bunch of cards, and my cat is being annoying.
Hi, Katie.
Or things like that. But it'll be interesting to see how, with maybe not so much with set 1, because set 1's going to be the old set pretty soon, hopefully. But it'll be interesting how the lack of VIP affects pack prices going forward. I mean, of course they're going to go up, but to what extent, I guess.
Yeah, let's take while I have it here, let's go ahead and we'll jump on over here to packs right quick.
Yeah, I'm wondering what packs are going for right now because I haven't looked.
So
I've been thinking about selling off 100 packs
VIP was, when everyone had, actually not everyone was getting their VIP stuff, but when, right before the tournament stuff, the lowest I saw packs go was buyouts of about 140 platinum. So we have everything on the minimum side now. So taking a look, you can pick up some for about 150 platinum right now. see. Yeah, about 150 seems to be the low end. So you could go in and get 10 packs for 15 bucks. That's what it looks like. So ideally, let's pull up handy dandy Mr. Calculator. So if you're paying,
what are packs going for right now? Did you say? Buck
150 platinum. So yeah, $1.50. So 50 cents off the auction house, or 50 cents off store price on the auction house. So let's see, 150 if you happen to have $10 worth, because my mental math is done for the rest of the day. You could get, so for 10 bucks you could get easily 6 packs. So you would spend 900 platinum and you'd wind up with 6 packs from that. That's actually not too bad. So
yeah,
with 1,000 platinum, you spend 900 of it on packs. You then take your remaining 100 platinum, and you can start up your first draft. And that will leave you 3 packs, and you might be able to sell one of your rares from whatever you draft to be able to fire off your next draft.
Yeah, the other nice one we were talking about with starting for new players and stuff is, you know, getting 2 drafts out of it is pretty reasonable. Maybe 3 if you do pretty well, or if you open a couple good cards. Another one would be like saving 100 platinum or so and just buying up a bunch of commons and uncommons for really cheap, or, you know, translating it over to gold and then doing the same thing. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense if you're trying to build your collection to just buy up all the staple commons for pretty cheap as well.
Yeah,
I mean, sure, if you're
a good
drafting,
example,
you're going to
murder,
build up that
4
pretty
pennies.
quick,
Spend 4 pennies for a murder. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the low end.
Granted, if you're drafting, you're probably going to get murders pretty quick anyways, because you're going to be picking them highly, I would think. But, you know.
So let's see, what would be... And then you can still do really well on, like, picking up the uncommons, and that's a really good spot, too. Being able to snipe some uncommons at, you know, 10 to 11 platinum a pop is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't know how I really feel that great about it. I mean, actually, with set 1, there's not a whole lot of great uncommons to begin with. There's, like, the Mentalist, there's Volcannon, maybe, you know, for kind of... that's lower tier, the Volcannon. There's not a whole lot of, like, really high-tier uncommons.
Well, you know, part of the market... blah, blah, blah. So from what the data is actually saying, there's about 3 or 4 of them, 3 off the top of my head that I can think of, that's uncommon wise sell, and they'll sell above the 10 cent, 11 cent threshold.
Which uncommons are those?
So one of the more popular ones is actually Stone Skin will do sometimes. It'll average anywhere from 15 to 20 on a good day.
Stone Skin's good.
Another great one is also in Diamond, and that is oh god, it's the block.
Solitary Exile.
Solitary Exile.
That one's a staple.
And then the third one in my mind is actually in Wild, and it's Chlorophilia.
Okay, yeah, Chlorophilia is good. Yeah,
So-
and that's one that, like, appeals to a lot of newer players. You know, you want to be able to play big things, and Chlorophilia helps you do that. And it's just a good card. Like,
Yep.
the fact that you're able to go, like, turn 1 Howling Brave, turn 2 Chlorophilia, and play another Howling Brave, because the Chlorophilia resource is still available to you. I like that. You're able to do some pretty fun stuff. I've had Chlorophilia work pretty well for me in draft because of that, where it's like you play it on turn 4, and then you also still play a 3-drop or something in addition to it. Yeah, that works pretty well sometimes. But what else are we...
So I'll give you an example here. So the ones we were just looking at over in the Diamond realm, most of them were listed for a buyout of 11 pennies, so 11 platinum. Well, you take a look at the lowest end of a Chlorophilia, you are spending 30 platinum to get a Chlorophilia. This means people are buying it. End of story.
Yeah, I think
there
I
are
have
3
a bunch
pages of
Chlorophilias.
Chlorophylias. People are buying Chlorophilia.
It's
The
funny.
high end is bids of 35 cents. So
Maybe I should sell my Chlorophilias, apparently.
I have. There's a reason why I went from like 20 to 8 of them.
Yeah.
So
Might as well. I mean, what else are you going to do with them?
well, and it's one of those things where I mean, oh goodness, I want to even see what their gold value is at this point. You want to be able to buy the ones specifically for your deck. So when it comes to commons, and uncommons, and maybe your last 100 platinum. You know, in the case of where, like right now, if you decide to go buy some packs related to it.
Sure, that way you can like finish up the deck that you were trying to build or like that you were wanting to build. That makes sense.
Look at it as customizing different aspects of it. You know, actually, the surprising part is I was looking for some of the more combo-y or interesting commons and uncommons, and one of the ones I expected to actually have a value that didn't and surprised the tar out of me was I expected to see War Machinist selling. I expected it to be above 10 cents when you found it. I'm like, it's part of a starter, maybe it'll be like 15, 16 cents.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
You know, not chlorophilia numbers, but, you know, it's a
Since
straightforward
it's in the starter,
combo.
and maybe somebody, and a lot of people have been picking the dwarf one. Although I've seen a lot of people complain that they picked the dwarf one and then they didn't really like it, and I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like it, because it's more of like a making all the wacky pieces work kind of deck.
Yeah.
And that's not for everybody. And I've seen a bunch of posts on Reddit and stuff, and they didn't like that. They really need to add that when you're picking the decks, like have a description of each, or kind of describe the flavor and what they do mechanically.
They need it when you pick the decks, most definitely, because when you're buying the deck, you can see every card in the deck.
Yeah.
And
but for those new players,
and that's the really rough part, is that you can't see that when you're just starting to pick it. But I expected to see War Machinists above the minimum that you could do, just because you can use the Replicator's Gambit on it, and if you happen to draw it at some point during the rest of the game, you kill your opponent.
So we are...
nope, 10 cents.
Sorry, there's a siren in the background. I'm sure it'll go away in a second here.
Super sirens.
No, it'll go away. Hopefully it's not too loud. No, now it's...
Function has muted himself temporarily while the wonderfulness of the siren is going. And that's okay, because we don't particularly want to learn why sirens are going by Function's house right now. It's not burning down, right? Shake your head, yes or no, if you're not burning down. Good, okay, he's still safe, everyone. No, don't do that! Function, no! Knocks the camera over.
Alright, it's finally moving away, yeah. I mean, we moved to Chicago. It sucks, like, our apartment is located right next to, like, 3 different hospitals, so we're sirens at all hours of the day. Alright, but why don't we move on to our next topic, because we're running out of time. Before we do, we should probably start thinking about at least opening the giveaway.
Yes! Alright. So, we've switched up our bots a little bit, everyone. And, we want to make sure that this is up and working again.
I thought you set your bot so that it was going to post our Twitter things. I didn't see that happen.
Apparently, in the process of this, it decided it wanted to be a bad bot, so we're going to fix it.
Yeah, we'll have to... But yeah, I'll let you fix that, and while you're fixing that, I will talk.
Yes.
So, I guess, actually, that's convenient, because our next topic was going to be what the recent brainstorms have been. Last week's brainstorm, I think, was Mercenaries, and so I guess I should rewind for a second. Brainstorms is I'm doing these forum posts. Oh, my cat has like a sandpaper tongue. She just licked my arm. It hurt. Anyhow, I've been starting these... Holy crap, the spam.
Yes, that's what happens when your bot comes back up.
Yep. Alright, so I was talking about the brainstorms. I've been starting these forum posts to kind of help some, or encourage some productive discussions to happen and make things a little bit more interesting on the forums rather than trolling and other stuff all the time. And they've been pretty successful. A lot of people have been responding. We had one that had like a whole lot of responses. I think it was the sleeves one from a couple weeks ago. But last week's was Mercenaries, and holy crap, everybody came up with like a ton of flavor for their Mercenaries. The flavor for them, like the stories behind each one, was almost better than some of the Mercenaries. Like, they were a lot of fun. Somebody came up with one that was... it was called Weldo, the eccentric dwarf welder. So it's a little play on that. And the whole thing was that he was a dwarf who liked to make like weld copies of himself. And so it was kind of a play on Where's Waldo a little bit.
Okay.
And he did a really good job on
Where's
that.
Waldo?
I thought that one was a lot of fun. But there were a lot of really great submissions. Actually, As One Jaguar, I don't know if he was still in here. He had some good submissions, and he's been submitting a lot of stuff in there. And a lot of people have just been taking part in the discussions. It's been a lot of fun. We're just kind of picking a topic each
week and discussing it. This week's topic, I picked guilds, and it hasn't been quite as popular yet as some of the other ones were. With me, this is a topic where I wasn't necessarily as excited about it as other ones either, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it out, is maybe somebody would get me excited about them, and it hasn't really happened yet. So with guilds in particular, okay, so I'm going to devil's advocate a little bit, but this is also kind of how I feel, is that I'm not really sure how guilds fit into Hex. Is that they're kind of just a glorified friends list. Like, what are guilds enabling you to do that you would not be able to do if you were not in that guild? So maybe one of the suggestions was you could have guild-wide tournaments, or you could have drafts where you only had members of your guild. Well, if you look at your friends list and you were able to invite friends into a draft, like, you would still be able to do the same thing. So guilds doesn't really solve that. Like, what is unique about guilds, or what could be unique about guilds? And here comes another siren. Oh, great, the house is burning down. Oh, no.
No!
It's coming closer. I'll mute myself again if it is. And yeah, it's coming closer. So I can make funny faces for a minute.
Yeah, you make funny faces for a few moments. I can kick back on. So I got the bot back up and working. We have a couple entries in at the moment for the draft pack. For those who are not familiar, it's actually really great for new players. It gives you 3 booster packs, and then we'll also give you a draft ticket as well. So it's good for, and the draft tickets are fantastic because they don't use your packs. They generate packs for you, and then you draft. No entry fee. Draft tickets are awesome.
Yeah. So so we're doing the giveaway. Is the giveaway going right now?
The giveaway is presently active. See, bam.
So Hacky was just saying something kind of along the lines of what I was talking about with guilds, is that and actually that's something they've kind of mentioned, is Corey and others have talked about that there's going to be they're going to distinguish between guilds and teams, and guilds is going to be this large group of players that you're part of, and teams is maybe this smaller group where it's more focused on one particular part of the game. And so I'm part of a team with Colin and Wordle. Actually, I didn't even give Wordle a shout out. I meant to do that earlier. So there was a tournament last weekend, the Invitational, which I just barely didn't make it into because I slept through the first 2 qualifiers, and then the 3rd qualifier made it to the finals, or the top 8, and then I didn't do so well. But I was like literally 1 point away from qualifying for the Invitational. So I almost made it, but I think there were 4 people out of the 7 on our team that made it, and they all did pretty well. 3 of them made it into the top 16 of the tournament.
Nice.
Neo is on the team. He made it top 4. Boss Hoss, I think, got eliminated in the top 16, and Wordle made it all the way. He won the whole shebang, so that was awesome, and hats off to him, because he's kind of the one who puts the most work into coming up with these deck lists on the team, and everybody's pretty good. But
Wordle has always been a brewmaster when it comes to decks.
Yeah, and I consider myself a pretty good brewer, but like, I feel like if I'm spending time brewing and I'm on Wordle's team, then I'm wasting my time, because he's probably already thought of it and he's in the middle of typing up some awesome posts. Like, right as I'm about to ever post something, he's like, "Oh, I got this better list." So
here's the slightly better version of what you thought about playing today.
I think I'm sure I'll come up with some really strong brews at some point or another, but he's the master brewer for sure. All right, so that was the tangent about the tournament and giving Wordle a little shout out. But we were talking about teams and guilds, and so teams is this kind of maybe a little bit more focused, smaller group aspect version, and they kind of talked about it at Gen Con a lot the previous year and whatnot. But going back to what I was saying is that I guess I just don't see where the term guilds in the traditional sense fit this large social group that you've joined, because at least in like traditional MMOs, even if they're not RPGs, there's usually some kind of large scale group content. I don't know, I think Planet Side, like the shooter, you can join big teams or something and go shoot other people in a large group, so even non-RPGs have it. But if you're playing WoW, you had like large raids and stuff like that, and it made sense to have this guild because it made it easier to organize 100 players so that you could form this 25-man team and go do whatever you were doing, or get the supplies you needed and all these other aspects. But I don't quite really see how that fits in for a trading card game, because if at most
the group-oriented content is only 3 players, what do you need to have a guild of 100 people for? And what do you gain by doing so? Or because at least for the developer of the game, it makes sense to have guilds because it keeps people engaged in times where they otherwise might be bored, that the community kind of keeps you engaged. That's kind of the whole way that MMOs work in the first place is.
Well, true, but if you can't think of how you're engaged, then you're not engaged to start with.
Yeah.
So you can't use the the developer thinks it's going to be engaging without them putting forth more than just the concept of guilds for engagement. Now, guilds still can have a really good spot in anything that allows for multiple person interaction, and so 3-person raids being the current known top end for interaction. It may be like the top end just for logistic standpoints for interaction. That's one thing, but that's not really exactly what most guilds are for. WoW, guilds were initially pulled together so that you could do the top end rating, but mostly what it is, it's basically putting away general spam so that you can listen to a select group of individuals that you purposefully joined.
Yeah,
and so
it's a social.
Your chat spam is people you know. So it's your clique, it's your group, it's your organization. And so that's going to be the initial side of guilds that we're going to get most likely is, all right, I'm no longer seeing all 10,000 people in chat in my zone. I am now looking at everything, my 5,000 people in guild. That's a giant guild. Or my 10 people in guild that I want to interact with.
Yeah,
and then after that, you get shared resources. And that's the next part of guilds too, is how am I going to share my PvE resources with individuals?
Sure. And I mean, so I guess you will be able to share deck lists and stuff. And they do have that kind of social extra chat room feature, but for me, like the way I see a lot of that is it's still just a glorified friends list. And I guess at the end of the day, it's up to the community to see how guilds matter. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. I'm hoping that with this thread, people might actually suggest things that say, this is why guilds matter. Because I don't mean this to sound in a negative way, because it might to some people. But right now, I don't see why guilds matter to the game. If you're in a guild, I'm not saying anything bad about that guild or those groups of people. I'm just saying that within Hex, I don't see how it's going to be integrated yet, or how it's going to matter within the game. Besides it just being a social group, which is fine. I mean, it's
hard
nice
to make those claims right now,
social.
though, because we don't have those aspects and pieces of content that would even be remotely relevant to a guild. So a guild is going to be based on sharing the burden of an experience, sharing the grind of an experience, and sharing resources between players. That's what the guild is about. It's about creating selective groups of individuals to share resources, whether that resource is your time and attention through the chat spam, through the glorified friends list, or if it's going to be, like in WoW, the use of the guild bank or the guild perks system, where everyone's time, effort, and energy goes towards creating a better play experience along the way. And that's something that they have to design that we, in all honesty, don't have enough info on yet. We know what they've talked about, and it's hard for us to imagine what that is because we don't know what the grindy aspects of the MMO side of PvE are going to be yet. We don't know how many times you're going to go through a dungeon, what you can share from what you get from the dungeon. We don't know, can I put my extra equipment into a guild bank so that someone else can pick it up and use it on their account? When I go to the Void Society and I destroy the cards and I get more mats than I need, can I put them into a guild bank so that other members of the guild can use them first?
I mean, we'll see how it works out. And
that's what matters. Because then, other than that, it is a glorified, super isolated friends list, which everyone loves. So
So we'll see. But that was this week's brainstorm. Ben, the Green Knight, I think he had a submission in last week's brainstorm. So that's not. Why was I thinking that was Ben Stoll? I knew that wasn't. Anyways, so Ben, I think his submission was like a knight or something. He was mentioning something about it. I think it was just a little
not deep enough, or maybe there was something clunky about it that just didn't jump out at me. But everybody, it could be your time to shine next week. Who knows? All right, what are we talking about next? We were doing brainstorms. Oh,
Yes.
so we're doing the giveaway right now.
Alrighty.
Want to crack a pack
So
and
let's-
talk about it?
Yeah, so let's pop this thing open right quick. Ta-da. Is that what I want? No, I need to close that. Erk. New bots are new, so we'll go ahead and do this again. We've got a few entries in so far. You have a really good chance of getting it at this point if you haven't already. Let's move over to cracking a pack.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, Ben. I wouldn't say complicated. It was clunky. Like the idea of what you're trying to do is pretty simple, but it's got to be more elegant, maybe. At least that's the way I view it. All right, so we're cracking our pack.
Yes.
Is that what we're doing? And then actually, we're actually making pretty good time for what we were aiming for to doing our hour. So you can crack the pack and let it load before you say anything about it, so that I don't. No spoilers yet.
Yes. No spoilers. No whammies. No whammies. No whammies. Stop. All right. So, oh wow, I actually really like this pack.
All right, so now it's loaded. I can see everything.
So.
It's a good pack.
Yeah.
This is a really good pack. Holy crap! Yeah.
This is after a couple really terrible packs that we've
Yeah,
had to
our
look
pack
at.
from
This
like 2
one
weeks ago
is.
was not good.
Oh my goodness, this is so much great stuff in this pack. It has your favorite.
Yep,
It has staple removal. It has oh my god, noble citizenry, Terabot. So many great freaking commons. Rare's kind of bleh, but that's okay because he's still pretty decent when you drop him on turn 7.
Profit, as Wordle and Neo and Boss Sauce showed, is not to be underestimated. It's quite powerful.
I'm gonna have to see how they abuse him because
Right.
I need to see.
No, I mean it's all it is. I mean it's not even abusing him. It's just he has 12 power and it's spread across 4
Essentially,
bodies.
it's a 7 for 12. I gotcha.
Yeah. So and at that point, and even if they murder one of them, you still have 3 more. And because it does what it does, it's kind of easy to recur it and bounce it and return it to your hand and get more of them out or any other kind of nonsense. But even if you're not doing shenanigans with it, it's still 12 power spread across 4 bodies, which is pretty good.
It really does. I've been trying to play around a little bit more with Sapphire and with a lot more varied metagame hitting the Proving Grounds now. It's actually been really beneficial, and I can see how this hits a lovely spot for Sapphire. Because one of the things that Sapphire ends up not having a lot of the time are bodies.
Yeah.
And this solves it perfectly.
And most of them are pretty fragile. And I mean, this is somewhat fragile. It still dies to stuff like Mortar Strike, but the fact that there's 4 of them means no, it's not fragile at all. They're all going to live, so it's fine.
And if you have any Inspire effects, well, that's going on.
You know what else is pretty good with is Mimic.
Yeah. Oh my god, you mimic the original and Mimic comes in and then it does 3 echoes, doesn't it?
Yeah, so somebody was asking about the giveaway. Yeah, so while we're talking right now, we are doing a draft giveaway. We're going to give away draft code. We'll message it to you. All you got to do is type like a > draft please or something like that.
Yes, I don't have to type anymore. I can just push a button. Bots are awesome.
All right, so we got Profit in here. As far as like the non-rare staples, what is that? The Dandelion Sprite isn't bad, but I don't really take it all that often early. It's nice if you have a couple of auras and you're kind of already built your deck for the most part, and Dandelion Sprite fits into it. So the uncommons for the most part I'm just ignoring. But for commons, holy crap, this is a really good pack. You have Murder in there, you have Terabot, you have Boulder Brute, you have Counter Magic. Right now you're zoomed in on Dandelion Sprite, so I can't see what else you have. But that's at least 4 commons that were pretty high picks for me.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, and there's Noble Citizenry in there.
Yeah. This is a really hard, pack one, pick one sort of.
There's
what do you
5
go with?
really solid commons in here.
Yeah.
And the rest of them aren't that bad either. Like Heavy Welding Bot, pretty solid. Ruby Aura is definitely really solid.
Yep.
And you know,
This
the
is
other
a great
ones,
pack.
T-Rex, Runts, Suppressive Fire, and the Sorcerer, they're not great. You can usually pick them up if you want them, so I wouldn't. Of course, you're not first picking them.
You can get
They're
them
not
a little
bad
bit later.
cards. They make your deck every once in a while. So.
I kind of have to go with the Functions Classic on this one.
Yeah.
Because the Pack One Pick One Boulder Brute it's really great flexibility.
It's really strong.
Taking the profit really says I have a pretty high investment thought into Sapphire, and which if you love playing Control, that's not bad.
And it's not that high of an investment because it's 7 costs, so by then you'll probably have it. I mean, you could just be splashing.
You should have your 2 threshold at that point.
Yeah.
So it's not at that point you could splash it, but it's a really early investment into Sapphire. But the other side of that is that some people may not first pick a profit. So, granted, I don't think the profit would wheel around though.
No, it definitely won't. So, I would say the picks come down to Terabot, Boulder Brute, and Profit. Murder is good and it's totally first pickable.
Yeah, but it's not a bomb though.
It's not as good as those 3 cards. And honestly, I think most people are saying, and I agree with them, that Repel is the best common removal. Murder's second best or third best.
Murder is snazzy, but most of the times you play Murder, it's the same time you're playing Repel. So
yeah. So we had Terabot in there. Terabot's really good. If you wanted to force it, taking it early is pretty solid, and you're not passing a whole lot of great artifacts in here. You are passing a welding pot, but you usually only play 1 or 2 of those in your deck anyways at most, and they don't even fit into necessarily every single artifact deck.
True.
Not a whole lot is going to wheel for you, but you're also not passing a whole lot, and generally that's really good for artifacts because it is a pretty shallow card pool that if you chose to go with the Terabot, which I don't think I would, but if you did, you could probably expect that pack 2 and 3 are going to maybe be pretty good for you. Definitely pack 2, and if you play your cards right, pack 3 as well. So that's a pretty reasonable pick, the Terabot. The Boulder Brute is probably my pick over the Prophet, and really the only reason I say that is I would say they're almost pretty equal on power level. The Prophet probably is a little bit stronger. Actually, it probably definitely is. The problem is the 7 cost
versus the 5.
Versus the 5, I think you're going to be a little bit more consistent taking the Boulder Brute over the Prophet. And, either way, you're not
there's still
really
a good chance that you might pick up another Boulder Brute, and if you're really lucky, maybe 2 more Boulder Brutes. You're only going to get 1 Prophet in the draft.
The one sticky part is if you're taking Boulder Brute, you're probably playing Sapphire. I would, anytime I'm taking Boulder Brute, I'm usually going to try to play Sapphire for Feather Drifting Downriver and make that happen. But that's not really a big drawback or anything. You're not, you are passing good Sapphire cards, and somebody either next to you or in the spot next to them is probably going to take a Sapphire card. But it's not the end of the world. That's the nice part about picking Boulder Brute is you just kind of, it just fits into whatever deck you're playing, and it is really strong. So that the flexibility of it and the fact that it's coming down a couple of turns sooner, actually probably 3 or 4 turns sooner, is the reason I go with the Boulder.
Well, and more consistently, because it's easier to hit 5 shards in draft than it is to hit 7 shards. Just generally.
Yeah.
I've had times where my shards have been terribly unforgiving, and I got nowhere near 7 shards available. Yeah, I have to go with the Boulder Brute here, just specifically because of flexibility. Because even if I decide not to go Sapphire, a Boulder Brute with Swift Strike is amazing. A Boulder Brute with Spell Shield, still amazing.
Oh, well, you go, even if you're in, I guess, okay. Yeah, usually you almost always put Spell Shield on it, because then you can, if you're not in Sapphire, you can attach a Wild Aura to it, or a Blood Aura, and do bonkers things that way. But yeah, usually you go Spell Shield and just give it flight with the champion, and you're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Swift Strike, like you were saying, is pretty good.
I mean, 4/4 Swift Strike, really nice for 5. All sorts of good stuff there. I would say if I was a new player though, and I'm looking at this and this is my first draft, first pick, do I want to really pick a common when I know I have, or when there's a good chance I have no rares? What if I started with the Sapphire starter deck? That would be my second profit right there, and I could start building myself out a Sapphire deck. So if I looked at this from a spot of, I just started up the new player challenge, what am I going to pick? And I honestly have to say I'm probably going to go with Profit in this case, now that we've kind of talked about it. Like, do I want to pass that Profit? No, because if I go ahead and I play Sapphire, I'm dropping a 4-card bomb, essentially, when this guy
Yeah.
comes in. He gives me great board position.
And we are close enough on Brute versus Prophet anyways. In the decks that are playing Prophet, they're only playing 1, maybe 2 copies.
Yay.
We were saying, I think Wordle ended up playing 2 copies and Neo ended up playing 1. And I kind of was leaning with Neo that I thought 1 was the right number. But I mean, Wordle ended up winning. But that's pretty irrelevant. That doesn't mean that 2 was the right number just because he won. I still kind of like...
I don't know, some people would make that argument. Well, I won pretty well with 2 in my deck there, Function.
Yep.
That's not my Wordle impression, that's my being a pain in the ass impression.
Oh, I beat in a draft? Yep, well, I do draft a lot, so I've probably beaten you, and I've probably lost you, too. Draft please, if we're about to give away a draft in a matter of seconds, so if you want to have a chance to win the draft, do draft please, and you'll have a chance to enter. But yeah, going with if you were a new player and you were building your collection, because that was kind of the theme of this whole episode, yeah, the Prophet's a pretty safe choice, because it's not a bad rare. It probably, once we start seeing more and more cards, i.e. once we get set 2 and 3, we'll probably see less and less play. But because it has a unique ability, and it does like being able to bounce it and bring it back and create more dudes and do stuff like that, it might end up being a staple in some kind of shenanigans deck.
It might be really fun to figure out a way to build a Gravedigger Prophet deck.
Well, we had I have a very janky Gravedigger brew right now, and it will get better with set 2, thankfully. But right now, the Gravedigger one, since we're talking about it, is it uses Corrupted Afterlife to pick 3 cards out of any graveyard. You can use your opponent's as well. Unfortunately, it turns those cards into zombies while doing so. But say you grabbed, we'll say a Prophet. Well, actually, it doesn't work very well with Prophet, that type of Gravedigger, because it comes in as a zombie. But we'll say an Argus, an Eternal Guardian, and some other big thing. It brings 3 of them in, and then you revert them all. And now you have guys that are good. It doesn't work well with Prophet, but any of those comes into play.
What method were you using to revert them?
Well, it's a bad deck, so I mean, it's really clunky, but we were toying with at least the idea. The functionality is there, just it's too clunky, because Afterlife costs 6. If it cost 3 or 4, it would be pretty strong. But you could either use Reversion. Bolt Paw Wizard is probably the choice because it's still in the same colors. Because you'd probably be doing Sapphire and Blood, or Blood and Ruby to throw stuff into your own graveyard. But yeah, that was just a fun deck that we were toying around with. It wasn't good, but it's on the drawing. It's on the shelf in case any cards come out.
Alright,
so
this is the last chance you can enter. We have double-digit entries, which is actually really cool. This is the very last chance. Type in *draft please to enter. This is going to be for 3 packs and a draft ticket. So what we'll do is that after the show you'll get a code, and the code you will take over here to the store. You will go to redeem code, and then you will enter that code in here, and then you'll hit redeem code, and it will put it into your inventory. So what you'll see is that suddenly you'll go over here to your open packs, and up here towards the top it'll have packs available for you. And then if you go to your card manager, you'll see that the ticket will get placed into your inventory stash right here, and it'll basically look like one of these guys. I think they're actually blue if I remember correctly. So, that is our last chance. Alright. We have closed it out. Ready for the...
Yeah.
Alright, and the magic thing goes...
Who is it? Jambon.
It is Jambon. You are the winner. So we will be sending that to you here a few minutes after the show. You'll be getting that code. Congrats.
As I found out, what causes this is if you are not subscribed to Mokog's channel, or mine if I was the one sending it out. This time I think Mokog sending out the code. But if you're not subscribed to his channel, it's going to go to your junk box or something. So
yeah, and that would
either
be bad.
A, subscribe to him now, or B, don't, which is also fine. You shouldn't feel pressured to.
Subscribe. It makes me very happy on the inside.
Yeah, it is nice when we get more subs.
But if you're not, make sure you check the box because he might have sent it to you and he's not being a jerk. It is there. So, yeah. Yeah, but congrats and happy drafting. I hope you open something awesome and that you win your draft or have fun. Yeah.
So, because we mentioned the Gravedigger deck, I've actually been trying to work out a, maybe not necessarily a tier 1, but possibly a tier 2 Gravedigger deck that might get a little bit better when everything starts. And it's actually based on a Blood Diamond deck, because they both have that really good core amount of removal to them.
What are you using, like the permanent, the 9 cost thing or whatever it is to bring stuff back, or what are you doing?
So actually, the biggest thing about it is that the first thing you want to end up doing is you want to try to take advantage of Lixil.
Oh, so you're using Midnight Shepherd, nice.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So Lixil is an early invincible. The earliest I've gotten it out, I've gotten a turn 3 invincible Lixil multiple games now. It's been really fantastic. The Shepherd is really, really mean when your opponent's not prepped for him, or you catch him and you bring him in play when they've exhausted their removal.
Mm-hmm.
And being Blood Diamond, you just have such great resources.
Yeah.
Bringing in the Corpse Fly to drop good cards out of their hand or force them to drop good cards out of their hand. Also, having it be the Zared bait generally, because a lot of people want to get rid of the flyer. Sorrow is one of the cards that can go in and out of the reserves pretty easily, but it's also really good for taking out the aggro decks. Inquisition to start picking out the cards you need or to stop those early combos. A little bit of Uranaz because Uranaz. Angel because you gotta love those angels. Just making use of Repel, Extinction, Murders, which I think I'm going to rebalance my Repels and Murders a little bit. It is really fun because it gives you that ability to play like a Blood Diamond mid-range control, but then also you can run in this early Lixil on some moderate to decent hands.
That's besides the Uranaz, I don't, because he's legendary. I don't know what he's going for right now. And I guess you do have.
He's
living
going for
totems
under
in there.
$3.
Okay.
Living totems are they've been trading a little bit under 300 platinum.
Okay.
Extinctions. This is not a super cheap deck, especially with the
it's
angels
not.
in there.
I didn't realize you had extinctions in there as well. Yeah, I couldn't see the cards because they were.
This is not
small.
a new player friendly deck.
Oh yeah, and you have
by any
angels
means.
in there.
Oh yeah, this is
definitely.
this is totally.
Never mind.
This is an expensive deck at this point.
So it's kind of a Blood Diamond shell where you're like, hey, we're gonna just try to squeeze in Shepherd in there, which seems pretty reasonable. I mean, the Blood Diamond shell has a pretty decent number of card slots open where it's either using Inquisitor, which really is kind of Inquisitor's kind of fallen off the radar since they took away that OP red gem that used to be a thing.
True, but Inquisitor still makes a really good showing.
Still good though.
And so one of the things I really like is that in your reserves you have everything at which to turn it back into a really mean, just straight up diamond deck or blood diamond deck. Where you fill out, you drop in the soul marbles, the living totems, the relentless corruptions, the inquisitors. When they fix it, Stone Skin, because I really miss not being able to run Stone Skin right now. I'd actually probably, when Stone Skin gets fixed, I will switch it out for the Sorrows and throw the Sorrows into the reserve when against aggro. But I'll tell you what, a turn 3 Lixil against an aggro deck is still really mean to that aggro deck because you can't get around it unless you're flying.
Well,
once you
get the 5 shards, sure. But I mean, you could have that as early as turn 4, right?
No, you can have it turn 3.
Oh, because the adaptable infusion device, yes.
Yep. So, one turn you drop in your diamond, your second turn you drop in your blood. You drop in an adaptable infusion device on one of the turns, and then your third shard is generally one of your 1 shards here. So if you drop 3 different shards on those turns with an adaptable infusion device, Lixil drops down on turn 3. It's really mean to your opponent when they go, oh my god, that's a turn 3, a 3 for 3/3 invincible. I'm not happy right now.
Not to go past time, at all,
Yes.
or not to, I guess, spoil the show, but I have company coming over pretty soon.
Woo!
So I gotta wrap up the show.
Function is
and we're a
popular,
little past
everyone.
time. But what was I gonna say? We were talking about the draft giveaway.
Yes.
And just as I guess a good note to end it on is I don't know if Hambone was new or not. I think people were asking him in chat if he was or if he needed any drafting help. But this really goes out to everybody, not just him. Is if anybody out there wants to, get some, maybe we call it coaching, and that just sounds like a weird term to use, but just some advice or some shoulder tapping going, that'd be a lot of fun. I would like to, and I think there's other people in here who are also offering advice or offering to help if there's any questions. Ben Green Knight is here in chat doing that, and I'm sure most of the other streamers and stuff, if you whisper them, they probably respond and be able to answer whatever questions you have. So if you're new to the game, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're tuning into the Twitch right now, hit me up, hit Mokog up, hit any of the other community members you might be familiar with. If you see them in game, hit them up and ask them for what they think of this card or whatnot. And most of us are going to be happy to help because we want new players to come in just as new players want to come in themselves.
Most definitely. Oh man.
Alrighty.
And I'm over here, I'm like typing up, going to make sure Jambon gets his code, stuff and
Cool.
things and stuff. And yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm terrible. I do think in song and it is very bad when I do so. But
What was it?
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say most of the songs I sing are related to my cats doing something, one or another. I don't know. I just come up with funny songs about my cats.
My cat
But,
is walking across the keyboard. No, don't type that thing. Don't sit Santa.
Yeah. But anyways, I think that's about it for this episode. We're gonna be trying to do these a little bit more often, and well, we always say that, but this was a good one. We kind of rambled for a little bit, I think earlier in the show, but we still had a lot to talk about, and hopefully some newer folks are able to tune in and find some value out of that. Any other closing remarks from you, Mokog?
I want to thank y'all for watching. Be sure that you follow this stream as well as follow my channel and Function's channel on YouTube. Be sure that you check out the other streamers that are here on Twitch. We are getting a thriving community here. We have some big hitters like Neo and Alucard and a lot of new small streamers. They all need our support. We want to have as many people playing and exposing the game and as many personalities as we can, so that one, people have great resource, two, fun places to hang out. Especially because if I can't do it at work, but you can, you need to be watching Twitch and watch some Hex games because they're awesome. And generally, have a great evening. Yeah, I like that.
Hacky, are you gonna stream tonight?
Yeah, Hacky, are you streaming? We need a place to send people to after we're done.
If so, we can send the train over to Hacky's channel because Hacky's always a very entertaining streamer to hang out with and watch, and just a fun. And he always has fun chat going too. People are always nice and just fun to talk to on there. So if Hacky's streaming tonight, you should tune into his. Otherwise, I see Penachills is going right now.
Oh yeah, Penachills is also fantastic.
He's pretty awesome. So you can tune into him. And other than that, I think we are all done for the night.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.
See ya.